Please give it up for Michael Jovel.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joe the Plumber, and apparently I'm rich. So, what I'm talking about today, seriously, my name is Michael Jovel. I'm a Flash developer. Kind of just like a lot of other developers had worked, on the Flash platform and worked on a computer, and I kind of felt like at a certain point I wanted something more than just kind of sitting at the screen and looking at, what appears there and working with a simple interface. So that brings the question of what is physical computing? I think the best example is when you look at the Minority Report, when Tom Cruise's character walks up to the screen and he just puts on these gloves and he all of a sudden starts rotating his hands, and you see that he's interacting with that interface. It's more than being on a desktop. Some live examples of stuff I've seen was Nikolai Cornell and his team. They had developed for the Detroit Auto Show, an interface in which it was mirrors, and they were rear projected, and you can go up there and basically manipulate your hands, and the thing would react with you. In addition to that, I'm sure you all have seen both Microsoft Surface and Jeff Hahn's multi-touch table. Both of those, changing the way we interact with things. Probably the most common outside of the iPhone, which I did not include in this presentation, but is the Wii. In that, you have this simple interface. Video games used to be something you would sit down, hold your remote controller, and you would play. But they looked at it as more. A couple of years ago, with the launch of CS3, I know CS4 is out now, but Adobe had launched something where, through the use of a webcam, when people would walk past it, the movie would animate, and it was actually based on a slider, so that as they moved, the animation would change. So, part of this is, you can do these things yourself. It's not that expensive. You don't have to be overly technical. You can be a designer. Fidgets are probably by far the easiest. All you basically have to do is plug it in through your USB, and you can do things like RFID, which is the example here where they would input people's names into a computer. They would load it to an RFID chip, and when the person would come and enter the room, it would automatically sense and list their name on the screen when they walked in. In addition to that, there are Arduino boards and May controllers, which once again, they look complicated, but once you really get into them, it's a lot simpler than it sounds. And they're fairly inexpensive, so you can definitely try these out. Simon Hayden developed a device in which, when you walked up the stairs, each stair represented a musical note, and he basically did this by wiring Arduino boards to the instruments. In addition, here's another example where using environmental sensors in which they can detect wind, weather. These trees, either one is inside and one are outside, but they would respond to the elements, and you can actually see them swaying. You can see the leaves blowing around. And this is probably one of the most simple ways of interacting. This is NetLab, and this is actually fairly new. And you can actually interact with this. And as a designer, it's based on components, and you can modify them and use them to create interactive experiences that are truly physical. Also, probably the most well-known, once again, is the Wiimote. But what still a lot of people don't know is that you can hack the Wiimote. The Wiimote, for $45, basically you can get a lot of different sensors built into them. One of the interfaces that were developed by Johnny Lee, you can actually develop a multi-touch just using a Wiimote. Because what a lot of people don't know is that it has a lot of the technology that you can use for multi-touch there. In addition to that, regular multi-touch displays really aren't that complicated. You can actually build a FTIR, or frustrated, okay, now I'm blanking on it. Okay, we'll just call it FTIR for now. Frustrated total internal reflection, which basically means that when you put your hand on the screen, the light bounces off your fingers, and an infrared camera reads your positioning based on that, and it can create that, you can create an interactive experience. So, next is, how do we develop these new interfaces? It's going to take experimentation. We're going to have, I don't know what the next interface is going to be, so it'll take a lot of experimentation. There will be problems along way. Obviously, the Wiimote and people hitting each other and breaking things was a huge problem. So, it will take time, it will take experimentation. You can't operate most multi-touch tables inside of, with a bright light over it, for example. But with that said, I just encourage everyone, get physical, try and do as much as you can with the platform. And thank you.